Kia ora koutou, ko dia ho, haramai, welcome to today's virtual makerspace. We've got some quick brain teasers for you and then we will be back with our main activity, which today we are doing some baking. Now we've done some baking experiments before, making cookies, and today we are going to be making cakes, so looking forward to that. Well, I hope you enjoyed those brain teasers. It's time to make our cakes and look at the impact of leaving out different ingredients on the way the cake turns out. Let's take a closer look. This is what you're going to need today. Some standard flour, baking powder, sugar, an egg, milk, vanilla, some oil, which we're using as our fat today, some measuring spoons. We've got the oven on to moderate, and I've also got some butter so we can grease our pans as well. The pans we're using today are these ramekin dishes, but you could use some cupcake pans or some patty pans or something like that. We just have to make sure we know which ingredient is being left out of which cake. So let's set a few things aside and come back and make a start. The first thing I'm going to get you to do is to break your egg, and then we'll give it a little bit of a whisk, just with a fork, just to break it up a little bit. Okay. So take your mixing bowl, and into that, we're going to add 6 tablespoons of flour. Add 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. Let's give that a little bit of a stir. And into that, I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Now, in the center, going to add 1/3 of our egg mix. Now, this will be a little bit tricky, but it's probably going to be about a tablespoon and a bit. Okay, a tablespoon and a bit. And to that, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. And 2 tablespoons of milk. So we go dry ingredients and then wet. And we're going to add just a touch of vanilla, just so it makes it taste nice. And we'll mix it all together. There we go. Just going to pop that slightly aside. I've marked this ramekin with an A, so I know that that is the cake that has all the ingredients in it. I'm just going to use some butter and margarine and just inside our ramekin like that, because we don't want it to stick to the sides. And then pour in our mixture. If you're using a ramekin, it comes up to about halfway. If you're using a patty pan or a muffin container, you might make 2 of them. That's that one. So we're going to set that aside. And for the next 3, we're going to leave out an ingredient. So for the next one, we're going to leave out the oil. So what do we need? We need 6 tablespoons of flour, we need 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, we need 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, give that a stir. Now we need 1/2 of the remaining egg. Two tablespoons of milk, and I'm using my spoon, which also happens to be a tablespoon. And a little bit of vanilla. So this cupcake or cake is going to have no fat in it, so it doesn't have any oil. That is going into ramekin B. There we go. So I'll just set that one aside as well. So, back to the beginning. Six tablespoons of flour, one and a half tablespoons of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, give it a stir. Now, this one's having no egg, so but it is having the fat content. So we've got 2 tablespoons of oil, the 2 tablespoons of milk, and a little bit of vanilla. this one is quite pale. Take ramekin C for this one. Put the mixture in there. It's quite thick, this one. It's all in one piece, that one. So that's the no egg. And last of all, no baking powder. So I think you already know what that one's going to look like. Sugar, so give it a stir after the sugar's been incorporated. Remember, no baking powder in this one. So we've got what's left of our egg. Two tablespoons of oil. And our 2 tablespoons of milk. We need our little bit of vanilla. Good thing about edible science is you get to eat it at the end. We'll certainly be trying it. So this one we've labelled ramekin D. Here we go. And now it's time for them to go in the oven. Keep an eye on them, but they may take about 10 to 15 minutes. You'll know when they're cooked when you place a skewer in the middle and it comes out clean. On first glance, you can already see how different each of these cakes looks. So this is our regular cake which had all the ingredients. This is A. B had no oil, C had no egg, it's quite crumbly as you can see, and D had no baking powder. So you can tell that this has risen the least of all of them. What I'm going to do now is just wait for them to cool slightly. I'm going to run a knife around the edge and pull them out, and then we're going to have a look inside. So here are our cakes again, out of their ramekins. So our regular or our control, all ingredients, no oil, no egg, no baking powder. Let's have a look at the bottom. That one's quite dry. This one has no egg, that's quite firm. This one has no baking powder and it hasn't even really cooked properly, that one. Okay, let's cut them in half. Just remember, each of these can be eaten, and I will encourage you to taste them and see which one you like best. I won't be surprised if you like the regular one. This one's a bit of a sad state of affairs, this one at the back with no baking powder, and you can see it hasn't even cooked properly. So I think that means that if you're going to make a cake, don't forget to use self-raising flour, and or don't forget to put in the baking powder. So the one with no egg, It's quite crumbly on the top, and it's quite dense in the middle here. So this one has no oil. It really feels quite dry, and that's what you probably expect as well. And of course, our regular cake looks really nice. We can't wait to eat that. So there we have all our cakes. Now all that's left is for you to try them. Well, thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed today's activities. I look forward to seeing you again next year. Ka kite anō.